The last 2 years have shaken the politics of the Middle East and the West alike. The question of Palestine, which for decades seemed frozen in time, has returned to the center of world politics in a way we have not seen for generations. Nations that once stayed silent are now speaking out. Governments that avoided confrontation with Israel for years are suddenly taking bold and public stances. Just in the last few days, a political earthquake hit the international stage. On September 20th, 2025, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia officially recognized Palestine as a state. This was not a small symbolic move. These 3 countries have been among Israel's closest allies for decades, shielded under the Western umbrella led by the United States, and yet, despite history and alliances, they chose to break ranks. But here comes the big question. Can all these decisions really reduce Israeli aggression in Gaza and the occupied territories? Can recognition on paper translate into change on the ground? In this video, we are going to discuss these questions in detail, analyze what has happened over the past 2 years, and try to understand if Palestine is really closer to freedom. So, let's start the video. To understand how significant these developments are, we need to go back a little. After the Oslo Accords in 1993, many believed peace was within reach. A 2-state solution seemed possible, even imminent. But as the years passed, hopes faded. Israeli settlements expanded rapidly across the West Bank. Negotiations failed repeatedly, and wars in Gaza, 2008, 2012, 2014, and beyond, destroyed any sense of progress. By 2010, over 130 countries, mainly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, had recognized Palestine. But Western Europe and North America mostly held back, saying recognition could only come after a negotiated settlement. That careful diplomatic approach collapsed after October 2023. When the Israel-Hamas war broke out, the world witnessed devastation at a scale not seen in decades. According to UN agencies, by late 2024, more than 35,000 Palestinians had been killed in Gaza, thousands of them children. Entire neighborhoods in Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and Rafah were flattened. Hospitals, schools, and even UN shelters were bombed. Nearly 2 million people, that's 85% of Gaza's population, were displaced in just 1 year. The images of mass graves, starving families, and children digging through rubble became impossible to ignore. This was the turning point. In November 2023, Ireland became one of the first Western European nations to announce that recognition of Palestine was a matter of moral responsibility. Norway followed in early 2024, with its leaders saying they could no longer stay neutral after being mediators of the Oslo Accords 30 years earlier. Spain went even further, not only recognizing Palestine but openly calling for sanctions on Israel if it continued violating international law. Portugal's move in September 2025 added momentum, and now, with the UK, Canada, and Australia joining in, the dominoes are falling much faster than expected. Belgium and Slovenia have already hinted that they may be next. Outside Europe, the picture is also changing. In Latin America, Chile, Bolivia, and Brazil have condemned Israel's actions and pushed for recognition of Palestine in international forums. South Africa has gone even further, bringing a genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice in The Hague, and using its own painful history of apartheid as a parallel. In Asia, Malaysia and Indonesia have continued their outspoken support, while Turkey, a NATO member, has intensified its criticism of Israel, with President Erdogan openly calling for sanctions. But beyond governments, the streets have spoken too. In London, Paris, Berlin, Washington, and Toronto, millions marched in pro-Palestinian protests, some of the largest demonstrations in modern European and North American history. In the United States, universities became the center of activism, with students in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco staging week-long campus protests in April and May 2024. These echoed the anti-apartheid protests of the 1980s and forced politicians to respond. Germany and France, though still cautious, were compelled to issue stronger warnings to Israel about proportionality and humanitarian law. The legal battlefield has also heated up. In May 2024, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for several Israeli military officials over alleged war crimes in Gaza. While these warrants may never lead to arrests, they isolate Israel diplomatically and place its leaders under unprecedented scrutiny. Meanwhile, the International Court of Justice is still hearing South Africa's genocide case, keeping the issue alive in the highest legal body of the world. Now here's the reality. Recognition and protests have not yet changed the situation on the ground. Israel continues its military operations, and Gaza remains under siege. Why? Because of US backing. Washington still provides nearly $3.8 billion in annual military aid to Israel, a deal secured during the Obama administration. At the UN Security Council, the US continues to veto most resolutions critical of Israel, preventing binding international action. Without a change in America's stance, recognition by European nations, while powerful symbolically, remains limited in practical effect. But that doesn't mean it's meaningless. Recognition strengthens Palestine's claims in international law. It allows them to join treaties, expand diplomatic representation, and gain more leverage in institutions like the International Criminal Court and UNESCO. Economically, if recognitions lead to action, for example, bans on arms sales, boycotts of settlement goods, or suspension of trade deals, the impact could be significant. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, the largest in the world, has already divested from companies linked to settlements. If more countries follow, Israel could face mounting financial pressure. Regionally, the Middle East is watching carefully. Saudi Arabia, which in 2023 was close to normalizing ties with Israel under US pressure, froze those talks when the Gaza war escalated. Qatar doubled its aid and mediation efforts. Egypt, while cautious, has been forced to handle massive humanitarian flows at the Rafah crossing. Recognition by Western powers strengthens these regional actors and emboldens them to take firmer positions. So can Palestine and Gaza actually be free from Israeli aggression because of these decisions? The answer depends on two critical factors. First, whether these recognitions turn into real coordinated pressure, political, legal, and economic, rather than remaining symbolic. Second, whether US policy itself shifts under the weight of domestic opinion. And here, something important is happening. In 2024, polls showed nearly 60% of young Americans supported conditioning military aid to Israel. This generational shift could make Washington's unconditional support politically unsustainable in the future. What we are seeing is the beginning of a historic transition. For decades, Palestinians felt ignored, abandoned, their cause erased from the agendas of powerful nations. Today they are once again being recognized, not just as victims but as a people with a legitimate claim to statehood. Recognition won't stop missiles overnight, but it changes the global narrative. It lays the foundation for pressure that could eventually make aggression too costly to sustain. So, what do you think? Will the recognitions by the UK, Canada, Australia, Portugal, Spain, Ireland, and Norway be remembered as the turning point that finally tipped the balance in Palestine's favor? Or will history judge them as symbolic gestures that raised hope but fell short of real change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective.